The courtyard stood still, not in relief, not in celebration, just waiting. Every recruit remained where they were, bodies worn, minds sharper than before, eyes fixed forward. The gauntlet had ended, but no one believed that meant anything was over. Captain Rick stepped forward, his presence cutting through the lingering tension without effort. "I've seen enough." His voice carried clean across the courtyard. "You've all passed." A pause. "And are now officially members of the Empire." No cheers, no relief, just silence, because they knew better, because passing didn't mean safety. It meant expectation. Rick's gaze moved across them once, measured, deliberate. "This is the smallest unit I've overseen in years," he continued. "As far as fangs go, this is irregular. A beat. But there's something here. Not praise, not approval, just acknowledgement." Behind him, Commander Brackle stood. No coat, no excess, just presence. Solid. Grounded. Watching. "You've been tested," Brackle said, "and you'll be tested again." His voice was heavier, less sharp than Rick's, but it carried weight in a different way. "Oath Ascension is tomorrow." A shift moved through the group, subtle, real. "Tonight," he continued, "you rest, you recover, you prepare. Then, slightly, almost dismissive, after that, your training truly begins." A faint pause, "and it will not resemble anything you've experienced so far." That landed. "Clean yourselves up," Brackle added. "Food is available at the Iron Fang Cafe." A few glances shifted. "If your meal gets cold," he said flatly, "that's on you." A flicker of something, almost humor, almost not. Dismissed. The courtyard broke slowly, not in noise, in movement. Recruits turned, drifting toward the barracks in quiet clusters, conversations low, thoughts louder than anything spoken. Because now it was real. They weren't recruits anymore. They were inside. And whatever the Empire truly was, they were part of it. Barracks wing. The halls were quieter than expected. Not empty, just reflective. Some recruits sat alone, some cleaned weapons they hadn't used, some stared at walls like they were trying to make sense of something that didn't want to be understood. Rakuto sat on the edge of his bunk. Sogi leaned against the wall nearby, arms crossed loosely, shoulder still not fully healed but ignored like it didn't matter. For a while, neither spoke. Then, "You actually died," Sogi said flatly. Rakuto let out a quiet breath. "Yeah, that's what it felt like." A pause. "You good?" Rakuto glanced at his arm, flexed it once. "I think so." Sogi watched the movement, not just the arm, everything. "You don't sound sure." "I'm not," Rakuto replied. Silence again. Then Sogi exhaled through his nose slightly. "You're still the same idiot, though." Rakuto smirked faintly. "Good to know I didn't upgrade." A beat. "You remember back then?" Sogi said, quieter now. Rakuto didn't ask what he meant. He already knew. The rooftops, the scraps, the nights where surviving meant outlasting everything around them. "Yeah," Rakuto said. Sogi nodded once. "We made it out." Rakuto leaned back slightly. "Barely." Another pause. "This is worse," Sogi added. Rakuto didn't argue. "Yeah," he said again. "Because it was, and they both knew it." Iron Fang Cafe, the space was larger than expected. Long tables that had metal surfaces. Warm lighting that didn't quite hide how utilitarian everything was. The smell of food filled the air, heavier than anything they'd had in days. Recruits filtered in, grabbing trays, sitting where they could, energy low but present. Not celebration. Recovery. One table stood out. Rakuto, Winta, Marno, Sogi, Jale, Kyra, Pex. A strange mix. But somehow, the center of attention without trying to be. Winta leaned back in his chair, already halfway through his food. "Eight," he said, pointing his fork toward Rakuto. "We not skipping this. What actually happened in that beast?" Marno nodded quickly. "Yeah, like, actually." Jael leaned forward slightly, curious but quieter about it. Sogi didn't speak, but he was listening. Kyra watched him. Closely. Rakuto scratched the side of his head. "I woke up inside it," he said. That part was true, and there was an opening. A pause. More like a slash. Winta blinked. "A slash?" Rakuto nodded. "Yeah, like someone cut it open." Jael's eyes shifted slightly. "Captain?" Rakuto shrugged lightly. "Probably." Flashback darkness. The inside of the beast churned, alive in the worst way. Rakuto's vision barely held together, breath shallow, body broken. Then, light. A clean, precise tear through the flesh above him, a blade. Captain Rick dropped through the opening without hesitation. He didn't look around, didn't hesitate. His eyes went straight to Rakuto. "Where is it?" Rakuto barely processed the words. "What?" Rick stepped closer, studied him. Then his gaze shifted to Rakuto's cheek. The mark, exposed, a pause. Rakuto's vision collapsed inward and everything went black, back to the cafe. And then I woke up here, Rakuto finished. The table absorbed that. Winta leaned back slowly. So you got rescued like some main character, Marno nodded. That's kind of cool. Jala didn't say anything, but he was thinking. Sogi's eyes stayed on Rakuto. Kairos didn't move from his arm because none of that explained it, not even close. Rakuto took another bite casually. He also said something else, he added. That got their attention again. Said he sensed something in there. A pause, power-wise, between an A-rank and S-rank entity. Silence. Even Winta stopped chewing. That's not normal. Mira's voice came from nearby. They hadn't noticed her sitting at a different table, but close enough. Listening. Rakuto shrugged slightly. He said, when entities die, they disappear. Jail frowned. So what's that mean? Rakuto looked at his food. Means either I survived one, a beat, or beat one. That landed heavier than anything else he'd said. Marno blinked. You? Winta stared. Ain't no way. Sogi didn't react outwardly, but his focus sharpened. Kyra said nothing. Still on the arm, still on the mark. Peck spoke, calm, certain. That would explain something. They looked at her, but you ranked first in phase 2. Silence. What? Jayla said. Marno blinked again. There were rankings. Winta leaned forward. Why don't we know this stuff? Pex didn't react to the noise. At least the top 5, she said. Rakuto, Rashk, myself, Sogi, IA. That shifted everything. Eyes moved back to Rakuto again. Different this time. Less doubt, more uncertainty. Rakuto raised an eyebrow slightly. I didn't fight anything like that, he said flatly. A pause. At least, I don't think I did. That didn't help. If anything, it made it worse. Across the table, Kyra finally looked up. Not at his face, at his arm, then his cheek, then back again. None of it lined up. And that bothered her more than anything else said tonight. Around them, the cafe buzzed quietly with similar conversations. Questions, theories, fragments of truth, but no answers. Not real ones. Tomorrow was the oath. And after that, everything would change.
I start from here, I catch up with you. I don't do back on a myself anymore. I start